Yeah. Well, and, magic resist is never a bad thing on a squishy ad carry, especially when you're going against. But it looks like something's going down to the top
Death
lane.
by Donuts jumps in despite being right in front of the tower. The ignite goes down, and that's just barely enough to kill him. But Momo is going to pick up, and he's surely going to feast him down easily if it's available. No, it's not available, so he's just trying to run away as far as possible right now. A nice juke of the Rupture there. Knocks him back. He's still trying to get some vision on him. He's just running in between bushes, in and out. So can Cho'Gath get this last Rupture? And he does. He does get that kill after a long, grueling pursuit.
Yeah, now in the bot lane, as that was going on, Annie tried to get off a gank against this blue team, but unfortunately she took a little bit too much poke, and as she tried to run away, she ran into a Caitlyn trap in the tri-bush, which gave vision to Caitlyn so she could throw off her ultimate and pick up that kill.
Ah, yeah, that's it's always a bad feeling when you're low, you're running out of a risky situation, and you walk into a bush and there's a trap right there, gives you vision, and the worst thing is if the Caitlyn is around. And actually, the Zenith Blade goes in. The ulti goes on the Shield and Sword, but that might have been a nice little bait to force out that Stand United. And I'm jungling, he's just prepping his Elastic Slingshot, but he's not going to go in. He knows that Shen is there now, so they're just going to play it safe, try and keep this tower up, but the range by Caitlyn is just overbearing. And meanwhile, Death by Donuts is coming in, and so does I'm jungling. Let's Bounce flies down. They're the nice taunt on 3 members of Day Ward, so I want to make some trouble, rather. And the Wild Growth goes down on Caitlyn, but Rivax is now put in a very dangerous situation. They're trying to get that kill now. And she does go down after sacrificing her ult to save Caitlyn. And Momo has showed up, and another nice taunt to pick up the kill on Death by Donuts. And now I'm jungling is in a very difficult situation. He does get hit by the Rupture. Cell Division is now in process, and they're going to pick up this kill.
And that was just a very long engage by both teams there. Red team thought that they had the advantage there, but again, all 5 members of the blue team showed up in response. And after they chased, from about their inner turret to almost their outer turret, the blue team was essentially all there. And they were healthy, and the red team was not.
And Bright Nova opts to use her ulti in. She does get the charm on, and Renoa just has no choice but to just fall to her feet right in front of Momo and Bright Nova. And at the same time, Day Wards does pick up that second tier tower on bottom lane.
Now, it also looks like they're going to be able to pick up this mid tower.
Yep.
So, all in all, there's a pretty big gold lead coming out for Day Wards. 21k to 16k,
Yeah.
which is about a 5k gold advantage there for Day Wards. 14 minutes into this game.
Yeah, and that was just a very bad time to die for Renoa as her blue buff just spawned, and Bright Nova's gonna pick that up, and that allows Momo to pick up his own blue buff, and they're just gonna get to the respective lanes because Death by Donuts has a significant wave up at top that he can't afford to miss out on.
Yeah, now it's also, if you look at the farm differences in this game, it isn't really a huge gap anywhere except up in that top lane.
Right.
You can see that Jace has 97 farm compared to Shen's 40 farm. But something to note is that overall, the gold actually isn't that significantly different. Because of the towers and the global objectives picked up by Dayward, there's only about a 300 gold difference there between Jace and Shen in favor of Shen.
Yeah, and great point. And another thing I want to mention while we're looking at the gold, Shield and Sword playing Caitlyn actually has 6.3k gold right now. He's got 3 times as much gold as Sly Fox does with Leona. So that's a significant lead. They're gonna need to do something about this Caitlyn because she is just relentlessly pushing, and then on top of that getting kills. So
yeah, and a 5-0 Caitlyn at 15 minutes into this game with an Infinity's Edge is a force to be reckoned with. She used that early game advantage that she had to push that advantage even further, and now she is, 5-0.
Zenith Blade actually goes on Bright Nova, but he gets charmed in the middle of it, and it kind of glitched out a little bit, but she didn't actually get to Bright Nova to land that follow-up Shield of Daybreak, and that kind of thwarted their gank a little bit. But, just a missed rupture by Momo there.
Yeah, she was actually, Renoa was coming in to check Dragon, because Dragon was spawning about a minute or so before Renoa got there, but blue team was on top of their timers, and they just walked in and took the Dragon, and so they almost caught Renoa out there, but she didn't get hit by the rupture.
Death by Donuts actually forces the flash out of Hill of a Shovel up at top. She did opt to taunt onto Death by Donuts, and the Ignite went out from Death by Donuts, so that opted the flash out of him. So, and the wards are catching Momo coming up here, so he's going to take the hint. He's going to actually let Momo know that he sees him and throw out a Shock Blast. And meanwhile, Bright Nova is getting engaged on, but he does get the stand united, while Shield and Sword picks up another kill, and I'm Jungling is going to go down as well with this 2-for-0 exchange.
So in this game, there is a significant gold gap that's being produced. Most of it is actually from kills and from global objectives here. I wouldn't say, like I said before, there's not a huge significant farm difference. There is starting to be a farm difference now that, you know, the red team is consistently being killed, but most of that is from kills and the global objectives such as towers and dragons that's being picked up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The gold lead is just going to, the minion count and the gold lead is just going to snowball because they have so much global pressure with the Shen ult as well as this teleport. And not only that, they're 3 towers ahead of want to make some trouble, and they have not gotten one single tower yet or a dragon yet.
Yeah, and as we transition into this mid game is usually the weakest point for Caitlyn because she hasn't yet completed big items. But with the amount of kills that she has at this point and with the amount of gold that she has, it's almost like the mid game's not going to exist for her. She has that Infinity's Edge. She has quite a bit of gold in her pocket at this point. She has 2,000 gold in her pocket. So she's going to be able to go back and complete another big item before the next team fight. And so her mid game is essentially not going to exist. Whereas Tristana, she also has a pretty weak mid game. And if you look, she doesn't have any completed items except for boots. And so her mid game's going to struggle quite a bit because she doesn't have those big items completed, and her mid game is naturally her weakest point in this game.
And up top, Hill of a Shovel does miss his taunt, uses it at his own tower, but it's going down rather quickly. But he's opting to do a lot of damage on Death by Donuts, and it forces both of them out and saves the tower.
Yeah, that Sunfire Cape was the main thing that pushed that minion wave there. Shen wasn't doing direct damage to the minion wave, but his Sunfire Cape was doing direct damage to the minion wave as well as to Death by Donuts there. And so that Sunfire Cape is a good pickup for him, not only because it deals quite a bit of damage, but the extra armor helps him against the Jace's physical damage abilities.
Right, and that's a good point. It is a great pickup for Shen. Just to get him, once he gets that, he just becomes so incredibly tanky. I mean, he already is tanky with his feint ability, which gives him a shield. And as it stands, they are gonna get that tower up top, but Death by Donuts gets back just in time. Let's Bounce actually was not used yet, or it was used. So they are now pursuing. Elastic Slingshot is prepped up, but he does miss. He dodged and he flashes the Rupture, and they're able to get the kill on Hill of a Shovel. And Momo is just gonna have to force the. Oh, he's actually gonna move in because Shield and Sword are coming up. Bright Nova's coming up as well. The charm lands on Death by Donuts, and I'm Jungling is just gonna have to walk out of there. And Renoa is actually caught in a bad place in her own jungle. The Ignite goes down. The Snipe is gonna pick up that kill on Renoa and make Shield and Sword 7-0-3 just at the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, a 7-0-3 Caitlyn with the 174 farm. You can see just how much she's dominating in this game at this point. However, she hasn't gone back. Now she has 3,000 gold in her pocket. And so that damage is just going to spike because she picked up Phantom Dancer, which now gives her additional attack speed, in addition to doing tons of damage with each attack because of that Infinity Edge.
Yeah, it's never a good sign when you know, the AD carry is doing that much damage, and then she goes back to the shop after a fight, and then straight up just buys up another complete core item. So definitely want to make some trouble. Is, you know, they have a very, very difficult tread uphill coming up.
Yeah, Shield and Sword is doing quite a bit of the carrying, but I wouldn't say that she's the only one doing carrying. It looks like every lane at this point is winning against their respective lane. Up in the top lane, you have Death by Donuts, who does have a significant amount more farm than that Shen that Hill of Shovel is playing. But overall, at this point, the gold lead is only about 100 in favor of that Jace. So the farm isn't doing him a whole lot of good because of the amount of global objectives that have gone down. And you can see Shen has been involved in a lot more kills. He does have that 6 assists compared to Death by Donuts 2.
Right. Absolutely right. And so being as it is that want to make some troubles team comp is a hard engage and it relies a lot on those R buttons synergizing. They cannot team fight those. So what do you think they need to do to really pull out the victory for this?
So at this point, they really need to get a good engage um, onto the blue team. So the red team needs to get a good engage onto the blue team when they've caught somebody out. It's going to be really difficult for them to catch somebody out because they don't have a lot of vision. They are in the process of clearing out vision and putting out wards, but they really cannot fight 5v5. And even if they do catch somebody out, they have to be really wary of that stand united by Shen, because suddenly a fight where you thought that had the numbers advantage could turn into a fight where you don't have the numbers advantage because Shen would show up.
Right. So while they're keeping them busy up at mid, Momo and Hill of a Shovel are going to pick up yet another dragon to extend their goal lead. It won't be contested. There are hardly any wards on the bottom. A lot of want to make some troubles wards are on the top side of their jungle in the Wraith River entrance, and they might get collapsed on here. They caught unexpectedly right here. And the Rupture does land on Sly Fox. He is forced to flash out prematurely, but Death by Donuts actually got whimsied and crit down instantaneously. Vauden's forced to jump in. He actually rocket shoots them away from him, and he does get sniped down. Will she go down? The charm lands, and he just goes down. Meanwhile, Renault is running away for her life right now. She's a far away from home. Hill of a Shovel is creeping up. Lands a nice stun to get some distance, but Shield and Sword with that Phantom Dancer is just going to catch up and take her down.
Yeah, and that was just a really hard engage for the red team. They were actually out of position, and blue team had the positional advantage there. But red team tried their best. It looked like there was a little bit of miscommunication. People were trying to disengage, but because there were abilities being used, I think red team misinterpreted that as an actual engage. And so they kept coming in, using abilities, trying to run away, coming in, trying to use abilities, running away. But they didn't hard engage, and they didn't disengage, which caused them to lose that fight.
Right, and it's just unfortunate that Sly Fox nearly got ruptured, but Death by Donuts, thinking that he did get ruptured, maybe tried to divert some attention away from Dage wards, and actually ended up getting caught and whimsied and eventually just taken down, and without even being able to use any summoner spells to get out.
Yeah, and you can see again just that 9-0-3 Caitlyn with she's the first one to break 200 farm. Actually, I'll let you go ahead and cast this engage here.
The fight is actually almost broke down, but they do disengage. They don't have wards up there, so they don't want to just willy-nilly fight out in the open, knowing that cooldowns could just be flying out of the bushes and want to make some troubles jungle.
Yeah. Now, I do want to mention one thing that happened in that last fight that was kind of, I thought, a really good play was when Caitlyn ulted Tristana, that would have picked up the kill. However, Zach used his Let's Bounce, I guess the last couple of bounces of his Let's Bounce, to get in between that Caitlyn ultimate and the target of Tristana, and so he actually took that Caitlyn ultimate, and so Van Wouden did not go down to that Caitlyn ultimate, but rather Ahri had to chase, which allowed Ahri to pick up the kill, and then I'm jungling on Zach picked up the kill onto Ahri. But if I'm jungling had not blocked that ultimate, then Ahri would have survived.
Right. And great point by there. I actually missed that with my camera, but yeah, that's actually great play then to just know in the middle of that team fight, a hectic team fight like that, while you're bouncing away as Zach, still being able to block that ace in the hole. So, and actually Bright Nova is actually takes down Zach. The ace in the hole definitely helped with that. Death by Donuts gets caught out by Hill of a Shovel. Vauden's just caught by another charm, and he's going to go down trying to save Death by Donuts.
Yeah, and you can see just the damage that Caitlyn is putting out there. If anybody on your team gets crowd controlled, the damage from Ahri plus Caitlyn, I mean, you're not going to survive that. And it could be, a taunt, it could be a charm, it could be a whimsy, it could be a slow, it could be a rupture. But if any one of those lands, you're essentially dead because of the damage that Daywards is putting out right now.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. He's just so strong right now. He's got an Infinity Edge and his Phantom Dancer built, but it's just so far ahead of Vauden right now that the damage is really noticeable, and it's the crit along with the headshot, and she's actually gets knocked back a little bit, forces the flash out of Death by Donuts. But yeah, Renault actually does get caught by the Rupture, and she gets feasted and taken down by Bright Nova.
Now it looks like we have the second inhibitor of the game going down right here, and they're just continuing on straight to the Nexus. So the Nexus turrets are getting wailed on by that Caitlyn, still doing a lot of damage, and she hasn't been back to buy in a significant amount of time. She has 3,000 gold in her pocket, but it looks like, nope, there's not going to be an engage.
Yeah, they're just playing it safe. They realize that Annie is gonna spawn soon, and everyone's full health. They don't want to get another strong team fight on them, especially when their cooldowns were just used, just picking off Vauden and Death by Donuts a little bit earlier.
Yeah, now one thing that's somewhat interesting is a lot of times teams will forget if they're in a position of power and they're pushing onto a base. If there's an extended engage where a certain number of people die, you know, the team that's being killed has the ability to go back and purchase items, whereas the team that's pushing does not. And so sometimes, even though you're really far ahead, you know, if the team that you're pushing against reaches a critical gold mass and then dies and then goes back and buys, if they have an advantage on cooldowns on you and you haven't gone back and shopped after getting that gold advantage, you actually, you know, have the ability to lose a fight even though you're really far ahead, because the losing team is getting gold and is going back and dying and purchasing items, whereas you continue to push. So that was a really good move by Daywards there to understand that, hey, you know, they are full health, they have their cooldowns, you know, they just went back and bought, so they might be stronger than us even though we have a positional power.
Slyfox actually caught out of position there by Revax there, and Bright Nova ulties in, the ace in the hole comes out to pick it up as well. So yeah, that's a great point that you mentioned with the importance of just knowing when to back up and start purchasing, because when I mentioned Shield and Swords items in their base, she only had the Infinity Edge and Phantom Dancer. She went back, straight up bought up a Last Whisper and a BF Sword, so that damage spike that she already has just grown exponentially there. And
yeah, now it's also interesting because there's not a lot of people on the red team that are building defense items against that Caitlyn. There is one chain vest, and that's the only piece of armor there. So that Last Whisper, it does do additional damage, but really where it comes into play is, you know, that armor penetration. And so as that armor continues to be built, it doesn't even matter
actually,
at this point.
Bright Nova catches out Death by Donuts as he's recalling, and he just was slow to react, but I'm Jungling just barely gets out of there, as he would have surely met his demise as well if he was 1 second late.
So it looks like the blue team pushing down onto this inner turret up in the top, and they're going to get that without any contest. The red team is still trying to push out some minions in their base, and so super minions are just really difficult to deal with when you don't have the items to do so. Tristana did finish her Blade of the Rune King though, but doesn't even matter because blue team is now pushing out of the third inhibitor of the game.
Yeah, they just cannot defend that top tower, let alone that inhibitor right now. There's just too many super minions, and not to mention they can't even thwart this assault right now because of how far ahead Daywards is right now. And the flash silence goes down, the rupture goes down on Renoa as well. Everyone's forced to go in. Renoa just barely goes down, but Bright Nova takes a nice ignite, but it's not enough to finish. And yeah, the base is just crumbling as they speak, and Vauden's gonna go down. Jungling's just in a last-ditch attempt, just falls down with that electric slingshot, and the game is surely gonna go to Daywards here. Well played by both teams. It ends up being 27-9 in favor of Daywards, and what a significant 20k goal lead there, Sana.
Yeah, you know, and that's, again, just all the global objectives going to Daywards there. They have 11 towers compared to 0 towers. I think they ended up getting 3 dragons and a baron, as well as they out-farmed each of the members of the Want to Make Some Trouble team. You know, that just was a pretty commanding victory. They won their lanes. They got all the global objectives, which just allowed them to completely steamroll into the base and take the Nexus there at the end.
Yeah, that's just very great play by Daywards there. If you had to choose a MVP though, I think I would choose Shield and Sword. I think it's a very resounding, just a resounding performance by him. But if there was anyone else, who is there anyone else that can compete for that MVP spot?
Even though Shield and Sword got a lot of kills, I would say that a majority of those kills were gotten because of crowd control. And if you look, Lulu actually has 21 assists in that game. And that's
Dang.
because she was in there using her whimsy, using her slow. I mean, that's double the assists of anybody else on the team. There's 27 kills. Lulu was involved in 22 of them, which just shows that, even though Shield and Sword got 12 kills, she was only involved in 19. So 19 compared to 22. I would actually give the MVP, obviously Caitlyn did do a ton of damage there. Shield and Sword does get the MVP, but if it weren't for Caitlyn, then in my mind, it's Lulu there getting the MVP for that game.
Great point. That is that's just an amazing kill contribution percentage by Rivax there. So yeah, I would go ahead and give them co MVPs because their performance on bottom lane just carried through to the rest of the other lanes and through the latter stages of the game. The constant pressure that they were bringing by that, just the Glitter Lance and the Piltover Peacemaker clear, they just could not leave that bot lane alone, and that allowed for just Ari and Cho'Gath to make plays all around the map. Meanwhile, Hill of a Shovel always had their back down there, so they knew they were in good company. They knew they were just secure, and even though they were so far into the enemy team's base. So
Yeah, they really just had their way. Towards the end of that game, it just kind of they took the small advantages that they had initially and snowballed them into the late game, and just didn't give Want to Make Some Trouble any time to come back in that.
yeah. So I mean, it seemed like on paper though, Want to Make Some Trouble's team comp had a great, just a great R button cohesion, and they never seemed to find that moment where they were totally grouped, they were all ready to engage, and then it just never happened for them. So how do you think, or what was like the turning point that really disabled them from playing their play style?
I think the turning point, I don't know exactly when it happened, but in my mind, the point where their team comp was no longer going to work was in the bottom. When they initiated onto that Lulu, the Zenith Blade landed, the stun landed, the ultimate landed from Leona, the rocket jump came in from Tristana, but they weren't able to kill her. That is the exact combination that they needed, but when they landed it, the damage wasn't quite there. And it was kind of at that point where we knew that the tide was shifting towards the blue team, and Day Wards just kind of took control, and from that point on, everything went in favor of Day Wards.
Yeah, it's just, and you said it, you hit it right. You hit it right on the point. They just were able to take that kill on bottom lane and just snowball everything from there, and they were able to get every single dragon. They got a Baron as well rather easily, and you can see the gold just stacking up for Day Wards. As I'm looking through the gold count, Lulu actually has more gold than anyone on the team of Want to Make Some Trouble. So that gives a lot of indication of just how much farther ahead they were due to those objectives. Just being able to attain those objectives easily and not even sacrifice kills while they're getting them.
Yeah, and in addition to that, if you look at the assists, for Day Wards, they have 55 assists compared to 27 kills. That means that there was approximately 2 point something people involved in every one of the kills. Whereas if you look at the kills for Want to Make Some Trouble, they have 9 kills versus 12 assists. And so it looks like a lot of those kills that happened, were either solo kills or perhaps they had, one person assisting, whereas for Day Wards, they had multiple people assisting in every one of those kills. And so they were playing much more cohesively as a team, and they were playing their game as compared to Want to Make Some Trouble, who just couldn't quite get the items that they needed to, land those R combos, land the Annie stun, land the Leona stun, land, the ultimate from Zac just to stop them from being able to do damage.
Yeah, it's just the ganks also, the jungle pressure was very strong for both teams in the early stages of the game, but it's just little minor misplays maybe on the part of Want to Make Some Trouble. They couldn't really just get those kills whenever I'm jungling was able to go into the lane, and but Momo was just able to land those critical ruptures while he had the red buff and just pick up kills for top lane and pretty much every other lane.
Yeah, and he really just built for the team, though. You can see 2 kills, 2-0 and 9 overall, and his items are, for the most part, defensive items. He has cooldown reduction, armor, and health, and defensive items, but he doesn't have a single offensive item. So even though I guess he did get 100 more gold than that Shen there, and he did get 200 more gold than that Lulu. But he wasn't going for kills. He wasn't going for um, his own his own stats, but he was going forward to help. He was helping the team out with that. So very good on his part.
Yeah, and it's just Leona was only able to get the sight stone for that game. She was just trying to get vision all over the place. She didn't even have enough gold to just get any other items but to get wards, because of just how much global pressure that was being placed on them, and just a resounding team fight entity that Dave Ward's brought to this game. So as it stands right now, we are waiting for the next games to start. So it should be maybe 10-15 minutes for the next game. So we're going to go ahead and go on a break for now. But we'll be right back and running as soon as these next teams are able to play. So thank you guys for watching so far, and we will see you shortly.